Hey, it's Mia J, and welcome back to the next installment of our Marvel movie reviews. I can't believe it's already May and we're getting through Civil War. So, first off, the non spoiler review for any of you who have not seen it yet. I think it's a no brainer here that this is a must go see movie. If you're a fan of The Winter Soldier, I think that you will be a fan of this movie. It is just about right on par with that, maybe better. It's hard to sort of put it into frame, but if you love superheroes, just go see it. I don't even know why you're here looking for a review. It's good. But now that you people who haven't seen it should move away so we can get to the real talk, or come back when you've seen the movie. And so just be a non-edited movie review, just talking through. I've got Mr. Piggy here so we can sip some tea and talk about what's been going on. And there were so many things in this movie because it's 2 hours and 30 something plus minutes. So where do we even start? I don't even know. Where do we? We start off in a flashback and we start to learn a little bit about Bucky and this whole 1991 thing. Okay, that's cool. Then we go to a flashback with Tony and you see his parents and you get a little sad and then you're like, oh, it's just a simulation. Then we found out there's something wrong about Pepper and Tony's relationship. Whoa, that's kind of bad too. So we just start off on a really nice, fresh page and there's lots of things. And then Tony is confronted by this person's mother who, he was killed in Sokovia. And so it's just a great start to a great movie. But all funniness inside. So so they move on to start having that conversation about, look at all the bad things that you've done. You've done Sokovia, New York. You put Bruce and Natasha in a sort of semi-relationship together. These are really bad, terrible things, and they have to be fixed by the government. And so I hadn't really picked a side for this whole thing, maybe up until the very last moment. I was pretty much like, I think that I'm Team Cap all the way through. I think at that roundtable discussion, I was kind of like, oh, maybe, Team Tony has a point here because they need to be regulated. But at the same time, it was like, well, what, government is shady in the first place. So it's like, well, what if there's something that really needs their attention and they don't get to it? And there's something that really doesn't need their attention and they're forced to go to it anyway. So I was like, you know what, Cap, you've got a great point. Sign me up. I am ready for this train that is just going to be a wreck. I can already see it halfway down the Amtrak road. So that's how I was feeling pretty much. But I think, if we look overall at the whole movie, it's kind of pointless to pit them against each other because in the end, it was all about the one guy, the one villain who was trying to get revenge because his family died, and that was sad and stuff. But, I feel like the advertisers, Marvel, is just as bad as the villains because they're trying to pit the fans against each other. And it's like, there was really no need. When I came back here, I ran into someone and they were like, oh, did you change your mind about Team Cap and Team Iron Man? Yeah, Iron Man after the movie. And I didn't really want to spoil anything because I was like, they just sort of call it truths at the end, which I was very much surprised that it was a happy ending. I thought personally that there was going to be a death somewhere and that didn't happen. And I think it is relieving. I think that none of us are really ready to lose a superhero yet, at least not me. I couldn't do it. Having Coulson on the brink of death was pretty bad, but it was like, oh, it's Coulson. Nick Fury on the brink of death was like, oh. But I think if we lose one of our main Avengers, that would put me in for a whirlwind. So that's just sort of how I felt about that. Tea time, it's midnight, I need to be awake. And so I guess going back to the villain thing, I had seen an article just recently where they were talking about, did Marvel fall into the villain problem again? And I thought about that while I was in the theater because I was like, oh, last time in Age of Ultron, I complained that Ultron wasn't a good villain. In this movie, I wouldn't say this guy is a terrible villain, only because he just sort of seemed like a catalyst to drive the destruction. Like, who even the villains could have been the Avengers themselves pitted against one another. Like, you know how you can have an external or an internal conflict. That's how I sort of feel that it was. So I think that this guy did his job, and he didn't really necessarily need to cause a lot of destruction, mainly because like it was all on the Avengers, and you know, having that force destruct themselves from within. So I think that is okay. I will still like give the crown best villain to Loki just because I'm just crazy, probably. But let's talk fight scenes, because that's keeps popping up in my head. Probably the best fight scenes by far. I really started to feel it when Cap came into, I guess it was Bucky's apartment, and I think it was right at the stair scene, because it was just like cinematically, you're like looking in the staircases spiraling, and they're just like going off of one another, going down these stairs and swinging off of cops and jumping off of the railings. I was just like, this is a really cool fight scene. I feel like it's kind of, I don't know if I've ever seen a stair fight scene before, and so that's what really captivated me. Then Bucky jumped over the roof, then all of a sudden we've got T'Challa, and he's in his Black Panther suit, and I was like, oh my goodness, no, they did not just bring him in here. And so that was really awesome. And T'Challa is just angry, you know, obviously for his own reasons with his father, and then they go and they move the scene over to the expressway or whatever, and they're just hightailing it down that expressway. When Bucky jumped on that motorcycle, did you not just like get shivers? Like, it's like how, why? There's just something so magical about that whole string of scenes. I just don't know like how to express how awesome that fight scene was. Like, I saw two people on the edge of their seats. Like, this was awesome. The next big fight scene was obviously when the Avengers were really pitted against one another, and you had Team Cap versus Team Iron Man. That was much more lighthearted than I expected, because they are friends, and it's really weird that, you know, how Clint is like, sorry Natasha, are we still friends after this? And he doesn't really want to punch her. So it's like, I can see why they made that scene very lighthearted, especially with Scott Lang as Ant-Man and Peter Parker as Spider-Man. Not that Peter Parker is the actor who plays Spider-Man, but you get what I'm saying. I think that comic relief was much needed, just because I don't know, this movie was kind of like a Disney movie, because they were like, you know what, you think it's going to be bad, but it's not going to be bad. We're not going to end on a bad note. Why would, this is Disney. So at least, you know, it's much lighter than, I feel like, obviously much lighter than Winter Soldier, but there's so many things to pick apart. Like, there's parts in that one fight scene. Obviously, Ant-Man becomes Giant Man, and that's just a cool distraction. Peter Parker and his, like, ramblings, he just can't, like, shut up for some reason, because he's totally like, look, I'm fighting with the superheroes, and he's so, oh. But, there were other, I don't know, Black Widow trying to, the double agent, or just, like, not. I felt like Natasha couldn't really pick a side to begin with, so that was fine with her when she let Steve and Bucky escape, you know, from the airport or whatever. But yeah, there were way too many things. And then the final fight between Steve and Iron Man with Bucky got so intense, and it was just so bad that they were tearing each other apart. And I was like, Tony, I know you're not about to kill Steve. Don't do it. When his shield comes like right there, and then he just hits the arc reactor. Oh man, that was rough. That was really, really rough. But I thought someone was gonna die in that moment. I was like, this is it. Say goodbye, this is it. But I was glad that they sort of were able to shake it off, and I didn't really expect that to happen, like I said, so I don't know, I was just really happy, just making sure we have okay. Anyway, so, yeah. What else did I want to say? Otherwise, the new characters that we introduced, Peter Parker, like I said, Spider-Man, I think he was so awesome. Him and Tony, like the chemistry between them is really awesome. T'Challa, as the new king. I think he was really awesome, and it sort of felt like they had their own mini movies within the context of the full movie, and it was just enough that it didn't feel like, oh, there are too many characters on screen. It almost felt like that, but for the most part, I think it was nicely put, because we all know Aunt May and Peter, and not many people know about Black Panther, but I think they set it up just enough to be like, here, look, he's a king and he also protects his, you know, his people. So I think they did a fair enough job on that. And then Vision and Wanda, I think they were trying to hit at a romance because that's the way things go, and I was like, I'm fine with this if this happens to be a romance. It just sucked that they were pitted against each other. So those are all the thoughts that I had right off the bat. There are probably so many more. I just don't want to go on and ramble because I know there's so much. So I was just gonna say, just to wrap it up, that I am really looking forward to seeing how, now that, you know, they've resolved things, so to speak, how is that gonna look like when we move on to the next Avengers movie. And will that have any effect on Doctor Strange? And will Thor, when Ragnarok comes, is he going to be like, guys, every time I leave? So that's just what I'm looking forward to. So yeah, those were all the comments that I had. I took way too long in the video cut. But yeah, if there's something that I didn't talk about, just go ahead and leave me a comment down below and we can hash out whatever we need to talk about. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. It's good for your soul. And I'll see you next time.